All right, the president there speaking alongside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel after their meeting there in Palm Beach, Florida today. The president making a lot of news there on that question and answer period, talking about Hamas, saying if they don't disarm in a short period of time, there will be hell to pay, saying it will be horrible for them, and that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are in charge of that. Talking about Iran, saying if they build up again, talking about their nuclear capabilities, will have no choice but to eradicate that buildup, as I've been reading, but I don't want to waste fuel on a B-52 on the 37-hour trip. Talking about a pardon potentially for Prime Minister Netanyahu in his corruption case. The president said, I think he'll be in great shape. He said that Netanyahu was a wartime prime minister. He said he was a wartime president, and Israel created a new award for him, the Israel Prize, saying that it had never been awarded to a non-Israeli. The president saying without the right combination of leaders, Israel would not be existing. The president also slamming Fed Chair Jerome Powell, saying they'll bring a lawsuit against him, that he will likely name a new Fed chair in January, and that he might still fire him even though he lacks the authority to do so. And in talking about the new ballroom that is under construction, much to the decree of several groups wanting the original White House to be preserved and wanting it to go through the normal permitting process. He says it is much bigger than planned. He wants it to be the site of the next inauguration, has bulletproof glass and a drone-proof roof. All right, let's go ahead and now go to CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed, I brushed over some of the main points, but anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think the big takeaways, Lindsay, from this are renewed threats against Iran and Hamas. That if Iran starts building up its ballistic missile supplies again, and there's concrete evidence of that, then the United States supports Israel striking again. And as you heard the president say, perhaps even bigger than last time from that attack over the summer. And then both leaders reiterating that Hamas has to move on disarming for the peace plan to continue. Remember, we've only been through phase one. It's a 20-point plan. We got 19 steps to go. And the big hurdle facing them right now is the idea that Hamas starts turning in weapons, which has not begun in any real discernible way. So that was a big thrust of this meeting, was trying to get the prime minister here to have him continue pushing for things, but then the prime minister reminding the president that part of what has to happen is Hamas has to start backing off, and they haven't necessarily done that in any big way. The president there standing with Netanyahu saying if they don't, then there may be hell to pay. This is the fifth time these two leaders have met this year, a sign of the importance of this relationship for the Trump administration and also the personal rapport between these two leaders. But just because they're chummy on the world stage in public doesn't mean that there aren't frustrations at the White House with how things are going in Israel. There has been concern that the peace plan is stalled, that perhaps the Netanyahu government is standing in the way of it proceeding. And one thing that Netanyahu also wanted to do on this trip was to start calling the president's attention to Israel's concerns about what Iran may be trying to do. Allegedly, and again, even the president there saying no real evidence yet that, or concrete evidence, that it has started restocking its missile supplies, and that it may be trying to rearm Hezbollah in Lebanon and still supporting Hamas. So an important meeting, the second one he's had in person with a foreign leader in the last 24 hours, and the third known conversation he's had with a world leader. Earlier today, he also spoke with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. He had spoken with Putin on Sunday before. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was here in Palm Beach meeting with the president. So big focus on foreign affairs here at the end of the year for a president who, let's remember, campaigned on a vow to end the war in Ukraine on day one and had said he would do differently, at least, trying to resolve the situation in the Middle East. He certainly has spent much of this year doing that, deploying his good friend Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, among others, to the region. But obviously there are concerns that the peace plan that's been negotiated may be stalling.
Ed O'Keefe, thanks so much. Mona Yacoubian joins us now for more analysis on Israel and Gaza. She's the director of the Middle East program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Mona, thank you for being here. What did you make of the comments from President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, it looks like, having not been in the meeting, that President Trump seemed relatively pleased with Prime Minister Netanyahu. If Prime Minister Netanyahu's goal was to forestall pressure on moving to phase two of the Gaza ceasefire plan, I think he was successful. You heard the president echoing many of the kinds of comments that Netanyahu has made, whether it's doubling down on the need for Hamas to disarm, otherwise they'll be held to pay, raising issues around Iran and the threat of significant military force if Iran indeed does restart its nuclear or ballistic missiles program. The one or two areas actually of difference that I heard very vaguely, but certainly there, was on Turkey, where the President Trump insists on complimenting Turkish President Erdogan. We know that the Israelis are very uncomfortable with Turkey and the role it is playing with respect to Gaza, or it could play. And there was brief mention of the West Bank. The president refused to be drawn out on that, but that too, it seems to be an area of difference between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Certainly a couple of points of contention that came up. Let's talk about Gaza and the people of Gaza. The president was asked about a poll that talked about the people of Gaza wanting to leave given the opportunity. What do you make of those comments from the president, and what is being done right now to help the people of Gaza?
Well, again, I'm not sure how much to put into polling of people in Gaza. I think what is clear is that while the situation has improved a little from the very dire conditions verging on famine, there's still quite a lot of suffering in Gaza. There's acute food insecurity. And of course, with winter now setting in and storms and flooding, you're seeing people die even of exposure, tents collapsing, and so forth. So the conditions on the ground in Gaza remain pretty miserable.
All right, Mona Yacoubian, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.